At first glance, the scenic first hole at Tokwa is a fun challenge for every golf enthusiast. The course website describes it as a birdie opportunity out of the gate. The downhill tee shot will add a few yards and provide long hitters an opportunity to take on the uphill second shot to a green that's well protected by a bunker in front. That's simple golf analytics, though many an amateur duffer would argue with the notion that playing that hole is simple. Look closer, however, and through a very different lens, and you'll see something quite fascinating and exquisite located behind and above the green. It is a butterfly garden. But why a butterfly garden? And why is it on a golf course? In 1991, the Audubon Society created and established the Cooperative Sanctuary Program for golf courses across the country to support wildlife. And that prompted the North American Bluebird Society to dovetail with that program and specifically support the habitats necessary for wild songbirds like the eastern bluebird, Carolina chickadee, tree swallow, the tufted titmouse, and Carolina wren. Each of those birds are what we call secondary cavity nesters. What does that mean? Simply put, they need a nesting site they did not create, such as a hollow spot in a tree or a man-made nesting box. The eastern bluebird has for centuries been one of the most popular and most frequently seen and heard songbirds in the nation. Its range stretches north to Canada, east to New England, south to parts of Mexico, but the bluebird's home is right here in the heart of the southeastern U.S. John North is the ground superintendent for Tokwa Golf Course.
Since its inception, over 900 courses hold a certification in that Cooperative Sanctuary Program. Of those 900, 21 courses in the state of Tennessee hold the certification, and I'm proud to say that all 3 courses in Tellico Village are a part of the certification process. The Bluebird Club in Tellico Village was instrumental in helping us get certified.
Butterfly gardens and the birds they help to support don't just happen on a golf course. They require lots of time and attention from volunteers like Kristen Farrington, who is in charge of pollinator gardens around Tellico Village.
The butterfly gardens are exclusively planted with native plants, and no pesticides are used in them. I've learned that how vital native plants are to our ecosystem.
Bill and Harriet Hartman are the co-presidents of the Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society and residents of Tellico Village.
The Tennessee Bluebird Society was started by some folks here in Tellico Village. Terry and Chuck James, along with Jane and Farrell Rowe, formed the organization in 2013.
In just 12 short years, the Valley chapter has experienced major successes in promoting the expansion of habitat for bluebirds in and around the village and surrounding communities. What is their specific mission? To encourage and aid in the development of nest box trails, develop education programs and workshops, offer classroom programs for schools, aid in the creation of plant habitat, providing natural foods for cavity nesting birds, butterflies, and bees, sharing information and experiences related to bird conservation. As you might expect, the Valley chapter's goals closely align with the broad mission of the statewide Tennessee Bluebird Society to create and maintain nest box trails throughout the state. A central goal is to have mentors in each county in Tennessee willing to educate groups on conservation and the importance of creating a habitat for our native cavity nesting birds. Interest a new generation in conservation and protecting the bluebird and other native cavity nesting birds in Tennessee. The Valley chapter and the larger organization as a whole wants its work to provide social opportunities to people of all ages interested in conservation and protecting our native cavity nesting birds. And from all this work, which isn't really work, but rather a labor of love, comes the collection of important nesting data for research. Michelle Campanis is an education coordinator at the University of Tennessee Arboretum in Oak Ridge, and among her responsibilities is to help kids understand the beauty and the scientific wonders of nature. She's worked closely with the Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society to make that happen. One example, 5 different classes at the Oak Ridge elementary schools have the experience of learning about bluebirds, monitoring them, and really becoming attached to their own bluebird box.
For many students, this is a new opportunity to get outside, connect to nature, and really see firsthand and close up some of our birds. The bluebird is such a beautiful bird. It's very easy to identify, and so it's very easy for these children to go home and say, hey, I recognize a new bird. When they see a bluebird in their own yard, then they can share with their parents what they've learned.
When the Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society comes into these first grade classes, they bring bluebird boxes. They teach about the nesting habits. And the result is these students are going home, asking their parents to build a bluebird box at home. And then they're teaching their parents, their siblings, and the whole family is getting involved in protecting bluebirds and other wildlife.
Once a student learns to love an animal, whether it's a monarch butterfly, a bluebird, or the squirrel in their backyard, they become engaged in wanting to protect the habitat for that animal. And that helps them in everything they do on their daily life, how they use water, whether they litter, really wanting to look after our environment. And I've seen that once kids learn, then they're like, oh, I'm not gonna litter because my animal friends, that's their yard.
Yeah, that first year that we were in the Oak Ridge School, Bill installed 3 nest boxes on their playground. At the end of the day, all the first graders were brought out onto the playground to see these nest boxes, and we'll always remember a little boy saying, "Look, there's an insect, don't kill it." And that made me so happy because that was the message we were communicating in our presentation that day.
Tellico Village is renowned for the many clubs and activities it offers to its residents. It was one such similar club that prompted Mike Nagel to put up bluebird boxes in his backyard.
I became interested in bluebirds as part of the Tellico Village Naturalist Club. I participated in that. That's a great group that gets together at the first Monday of every month. And we had some people come in that were demoing some birds. And as part of that presentation, there was a slide up there about other opportunities within the village, and the Bluebird Society was one of those.
Mike Nagel's first year with bluebird boxes has been an interesting learning experience. The good news? He watched at least 4 fledgling bluebirds grow and literally fly the coop. But that success was not immediate.
I had normal boxes on the tree, and as part of the first venture into the Bluebird Society, I saw that they had nest boxes that were on poles, and they had baffles on them, and they were set up specifically for bluebirds. Now, all the nest boxes I had on the trees, I never got a bluebird. I got sparrows, I got some other birds, but never got a bluebird. So having my first bluebird in the nest box was awesome. It was rewarding, let's just say that.
Harriet Hartman is a lifelong bird watcher and the co-president of the Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society.
The bluebird nesting season has its beginnings around Valentine's Day each year and runs through mid-August. Each bird is at least 1 year old when the males and females form pairs and bond. The male starts to look for possible nesting sites, such as cavities in trees or wooden fence posts or man-made nest boxes. In mid-March, the male will put a few pieces of dried grass or pine needles in some of these possible nest sites. If you've ever wondered how a bluebird male attracts a mate, the process is wonderfully fascinating. Male bluebirds will try to entice the female by perching on or near the site and performing a behavior called a wing wave, where he raises and waves a wing and does a yoo-hoo motion kind of over here. Building the nest is ultimately left to the female. She inspects the potential nest site and decides if she will accept it. If she does, she will remove a piece of the material and start building a proper nest on her own, although the male will occasionally help with a piece or two. But during the nesting season, the male bluebird's job is to protect the female, protect his territory, and especially protect the nest site from other males. Other predators can be a problem too. Different types of cavity nesting birds will often compete for nest box space, such as you see here with a family of bluebirds and a family of brown-headed nuthatches. Bluebird families can happen as often as 3 times during the nesting season here in the southeastern U.S. We call them clutches, and the female bluebird lays 1 egg a day until the clutch is complete. The female can lay from 3 to 6 eggs at a time, but as the season progresses, she will generally start with 5 eggs. The next clutch will be 4 eggs, with 3 usually in the final clutch. Once all eggs are laid, she will begin incubating the eggs. That's why all the eggs then hatch in the same 24-hour period. Female bluebirds sit on their nest for about 2 weeks, and then one by one, all in the same day, the eggs hatch. The babies use an egg tooth to make a starter hole. Then they push on the crack to break the shell in 2 pieces. Their egg tooth, having served its purpose, then falls off. It can take 1 to 6 hours for the whole process of each egg hatching to be completed. Both parents feed and keep the nest clean by removing the poop from the babies. The poop comes out after a baby has been fed in a neat little container that's called a poop sack. Sometimes the parents eat it for the extra nutrition, but usually they drop it outside far away from the nest. The bluebird babies start to grow feathers and their eyes open when they are about a week old. After 2 weeks, feathers cover their bodies, and when these newborns are just 17 to 21 days old, amazingly they are ready to leave the nest. When they are almost ready to fledge, that's a word that means they are ready to leave the nest, the youngsters are big and they now crowd the bluebird box. Very often they come to the hole to be fed. When it's time to fledge, the parents will stop feeding them and instead call to them and encourage them to leave the nest and take their first flight to the nearby tree or shrub. Once the young fledgling bluebirds have left the nest box, they will not return to that box. They will, however, stay near their parents for about another month, learning to be a bluebird. The male father takes over teaching young birds how to hunt and recognize threats. Meanwhile, the female mother leaves the completed clutch of new baby bluebirds and goes to build a new nest, lay more eggs, and begin a new brood. Bluebirds live from 6 to 10 years in the wild, which means that just one pair of the bonded birds can parent as many as 70 to 100 babies during their lifetime. The amazing bluebird cycle of life continues.
Chuck Powell is a Tellico Village resident and has served as membership coordinator for the Valley chapter and currently is vice president.
Some of the new knowledge that I've gained while being part of the Bluebird Society is that the bluebirds are blue in color thanks to prisms in their feathers. They can build up to 3 nests per year, while other cavity nesters only do 1 nest per year. Bluebirds are very territorial and caring parents. They have a very clean nest box, and they keep it that way until their young physically fledge.
Chuck says construction of every Bluebird box is done locally, by hand, by volunteers. They aren't imported from somewhere overseas. And the Valley chapter asks for a donation of $65 for each Bluebird box they provide in order to help support their nonprofit all-volunteer mission.
The nest box is made of red cedar, cut and built piece by piece. Plans for building are available from the Valley chapter, and we do at least 3 builds per year. We build about 75 nest boxes per year. We do this 3 times a year, so roughly 225 boxes each year. We do it through an assembly line approach led by Tom Chrisman and Jerry Reisticken. Boxes are hand cut piece by piece by Jerry and Tom, and the holes are drilled with jigs for assembly at the star.
The Valley chapter assembly line uses a combination of varnishers as well as box builders to complete approximately 75 boxes in 2 hours. The exteriors are varnished, but can also be painted. But what they do ask is box owners not paint them at home with something that will harm the bluebirds. Another important point, they add baffles to the boxes for predator protection, and with good reason.
The baffles are used to protect the bluebirds and other cavity nesters from squirrels, snakes, raccoons. They can climb the pole, but with the baffles in place, that they just wobble, the baffle wobbles and they can't stay on there.
It doesn't happen often, but yes, non-venomous snakes, what we would call good snakes, have been known to climb into bluebird nesting boxes.
One of the most dangerous predators for bluebirds is a rat snake. While they're very good for removing rodents and pests, they're not very good for bluebirds.
Back at Tokwa, golfers and nature lovers here in Tellico Village have learned to appreciate the beauty of the vistas that surround us and the simultaneously very different ways we can enjoy what we see before us. That butterfly garden, those butterflies that flutter and delight us, they're part of the circle of life that makes songbirds like the Tennessee Bluebird possible. Kristen Farrington has been the lead person overseeing its growth as part of her volunteer work for the Tokwa Beautification Committee. She explained how the plants and butterflies and the trees and the birds are all part of an intricate science.
Monarch butterfly lays its egg on a milkweed leaf, and when that egg hatches and becomes a caterpillar, those caterpillars can only eat milkweed leaves. With birds, caterpillars are very crucial, and insects are very crucial to their diet. Oak tree is another type of host plant, like a milkweed is for a monarch. Oak trees are a host plant for over 500 species of caterpillars. Oak trees are really important to the whole ecological system.
Milkweed, Tennessee coneflower, and other native plants have been added to the Tokwa butterfly garden behind the green on hole number 1. Also, the garden behind the green on hole number 2 has native oak leaf hydrangeas, dwarf fothergilla, Hubrick's blue star, and bottle brush buckeyes. Golf course Superintendent John North is rightfully proud of the even more expansive effort underway on all 3 Tellico Village courses to incorporate natural plants and grasses.
Additionally, we planted over 40 acres of native grasses on the golf course to take the place of highly maintained turf. And that is just at Tokwa alone. When you combine Kahidi and Tanasi, we've probably well exceeded over 100 acres, approaching 200 acres of native grassland plants. And this helps in the development of protecting our wildlife, giving them natural spaces and corridors to pass from one area of the golf course to another, as well as enhances and promotes different bird species, nesting birds.
One of the most beloved assets of Tellico Village is its scenic beauty. Walking paths and trails abound throughout. The Valley chapter was quick to take advantage of the many public areas that lend themselves naturally to the establishment of bluebird trails.
A bluebird trail is a group of nest boxes in a general area in public property. We don't do trails that go through people's backyards and that type of thing just because we don't want to invade on privacy or have to be seeking out all that permission. So all of our trails are in public property with open general access. Places like golf courses, churches, libraries, wellness centers, greenways and walking paths, in some areas even cemeteries, are great places to set up bluebird trails.
Volunteers who monitor the nest boxes on the trails are trained to knock on the box prior to opening it. If there's an adult bird inside, mama sitting on the eggs to incubate them, for example, it will give her a chance to leave the box before the door is opened. But be careful. Sometimes the adult bird won't exit the box until the door is opened, and that can startle any volunteer who doesn't have nerves of steel, like this guy.
There are 28 trails in the Valley chapter with over 460 boxes. 13 of those trails are in Tellico Village and 148 nest boxes, including all the golf courses.
Kristen Farrington is rightfully proud of the role that the butterfly gardens at Tokwa have made in helping to reestablish habitat crucial to bluebirds. After all, in a village where thousands of homes have been built in the last several decades, the gardens and the bluebird nesting box trails are testimony to how to make homes, people, and wildlife coexist.
We're losing habitat in our world for cavity nesting birds. A bluebird is a cavity nesting bird. Chickadees are another cavity nesting bird. Tree swallows are also cavity nesters. It's when we take down trees in order to build homes or plant fields of corn that we lose trees, and trees are where bluebirds find cavities in order to build a nest and raise 3 or 4 broods in a season in those nests. I never really thought about it until I started working with the Bluebird Society and witnessed how a newborn chick with no feathers becomes an adolescent within 12 to 15 days. And I have learned that bluebirds are insect eating birds. They live on insects. I wear this shirt when I'm in the elementary classrooms to ask the students, the first graders, can you name me an insect? And I hold up this shirt to give them hints.
Bluebirds fledge, and after they leave the box, they never come back to the box. The parents actually feed them in cover during the first week of their life. If they ever come back to a box, it's for mating purposes only, but typically they do not. When they first fledge, bluebirds are not very good flyers. They will choose any cover they can get to, and the parents feed them in that cover and will continue to do so for at least a week or more.
For the Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society, the track record of success is impressive. In just 6 years, the number of bluebird eggs laid, hatched, and ultimately resulting in fledglings who fly away has doubled. The results in and around Tellico Village for tree swallows is equally impressive, with those numbers of eggs, hatches, and fledges also essentially doubling from 2019 through 2024. For reasons that aren't fully clear, though, the numbers of the Carolina chickadee have not kept pace with the growth for the bluebirds and the swallows, so there is some concern about the chickadee numbers in Tellico Village. all of which underscores just how very important it is for the preservation and expansion of habitat to support songbirds and for the creation and placement of more nesting boxes to support bluebirds, tree swallows, and chickadees, and more. The Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society has nesting boxes located on 28 different trails, and a recent count showed 463 nest boxes have been placed on those trails. They have been placed across a wide area ranging from Norris Dam to the Seven Islands State Park east of Knoxville and on down to Farragut to well over 100 boxes in the public areas of Tellico Village.
The Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society has about 97 households so far this year through July. So about 75% of our membership are Tellico Village residences. Many of our members are active in trail monitoring and other functions like building boxes, nest boxes, or educational programs with our schools.
The Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society wants you. It can be as simple as putting up a nest box or two in your backyard, or volunteering your time to serve in the various opportunities to promote songbirds on the trails and gardens that promote the vitality of these beautiful creatures. Whatever your interest might be, just send an email to valleychaptertbs@gmail.com. The birds thank you for your support.